One of the questions I get asked a lot regarding 3D printers and lasers, and I'm going to do another one here in a bit on lasers, is I want a laser or I want a 3D printer. In this case, we're going to talk about 3D printers, but I want a good one. I don't want to pay very much. So in other words, I want a cheap, good 3D printer. Normally those two words don't really go together, but there are some exceptions around, and we're going to talk about one of them right here. And right off I'll say, this is not sponsored. This is more or less in response to several messages and requests I get. We'll talk about this coming up. I'm Roger, welcome to what I call the loft above the shop, and this is where the 3D printers live and the heat presses and the crafty type stuff we do, because it's not dirty up here and dusty like it is down in the shop where I use the lasers and the saws and all that stuff. What we're going to talk about here is a 3D printer. Maybe you want one for Christmas, or maybe you have a teen that wants to get into 3D printing. And one of the more recent requests I got, so I want a 3D printer, but I want to be able to print some larger stuff on it, you know, like perhaps a vase or one of the cosplay helmets or something like that. You know, what kind of printer should I get? Should I get a Creality? Should I get Prusa? You know, Ender, there's all kinds of brands. This one I got right here is Longer LK5 Pro. And the reason I'm recommending this is because not only of its size, but its price point. It is not only a large printer with a large format and a high build area, it's also inexpensive for what it is. And normally, as I said at the very beginning, cheap and good does not usually go together. Usually you have trade-offs. I have had absolutely no problems with this whatsoever. One thing I will say about some of the other brands, and I won't get into them specifically, is if you need tech support, good luck. With one of the more well-known brands in particular, pretty much if you want any kind of tech support, you're going to have to go to their Facebook page and deal with other members, a lot of which are cheerleaders that their company never does anything wrong, and you know, everything is user error. And I have really been through the mill with this one particular company, even though I have some of their printers. I just know how to work on them now. I know how to deal with all the different little idiosyncrasies. What I will say with Longer though is, and I did have to contact tech support one time, not on this printer, it was on a laser. I needed a part, and the response was almost instant. Now granted, there is a huge time difference between the United States and assuming their tech support is in China. So there is a lag there. You're going to have a 12-hour lag, but I got a quick response, a quick solution, got my parts when I needed them. It was just painless. With this printer here, it has a unique architecture. You not only have these large uprights, you have these struts, which makes this thing extremely steady. So if I was printing something tall on, let's say, one of these printers back here, as it got to the top, I would have to start watching about what they call Z-wobble, because of the rod that the Z-axis, and Z-axis is what moves up and down. Your X is this way and your Y is this way if you're new to this. This moves on a rod. And if that rod is just loose at the top and it's just kind of sitting there, anything you print down here short, like what I got printing right now, will print just fine. But when you start getting up the things tall, you're going to start getting your layers shifting as that rod wobblates, as I call it. That's a technical term, by the way. But with this one here, there's actually a bearing at the top that stabilizes this and keeps that rod true at all times. So that's one of the things I like about it. Another thing is the filament feed. It's not a direct feed, really. It does have a Bowden tube, which is this tube right here, where it may not be good for your super flexible filaments. For PLA and ABS, it's just fine. It runs right through there. Again, though, with an ABS, you're going to need a very, very warm room, or you're going to have to put an enclosure around this. But for PLA, I mean, I've run I don't know how many spools of PLA through this. I've only had to change the nozzle once, and that's because it wore out. And yes, nozzles wear out. And if you start using a filament like carbon fiber or the wood-filled or metal-filled filaments, you need to go to a steel, hardened steel nozzle. Otherwise, the brass ones work just fine, and they're not expensive. Parts for this, if you would happen to need them, they're readily available. There's no problems there. As far as bed leveling, I don't have automatic leveling on this. I do have automatic leveling on my Longer L4KX that's behind me. It's a smaller format printer. It's also a very good one. But to answer the question of, I want a large printer, but I want a good one, but I want a cheap one, this is going to be your answer. So if you're looking for something to give yourself for Christmas, or maybe as a gift, or just to have another toy, because boys can never have too many toys, or you have a teen that is aspiring to become a creator, maybe an artist or that type of thing, and you want them to be able to start out with a quality machine that is still able to make some large format items that you don't have to do in parts and then glue together, this would be the way to go. Again, I'm not sponsored by Longer. I just have several of their products. I have never had any problems with them. Their tech support is excellent. So there's my recommendation for an entry-level 3D printer in a large format. Well, thanks for watching. Roger in the shop. Actually, in the loft above the shop. It's warmer up here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.